I am Brandon Strange, joined by ESPN Houston's Charlie Pallilo. Charlie, good to see you. The MLB draft is this Wednesday and Thursday, and the Astros serving the first year of this MLB punishment for the sign-stealing investigation. That means they are without a first and second round, but the loss of Garrett Cole means they'll get a compensatory pick at 72. Chandler Rome of the Chronicle had an interesting article highlighting how the cornerstones of Jeff Lunau's draft department are still intact. James Click said that with an abbreviated draft with just 5 rounds this year, they can really just focus on getting the best talent overall. Obviously, the Astros are still going to miss out on having those early draft picks, but how acutely do you think the Astros will feel the MLB's punishment this week?
Well, look, you're throwing a dart at the board. Now, just the way baseball works, we could build a Hall of Fame squad of guys taken 72nd and much lower than that. But for having no first or second round pick, it's still a minorly important draft for the Astros. Couple points. One, the negotiation between the owners and players back in March. The entire draft this year is only 5 rounds. Right? It's been 40 in recent years, trimmed from 50. This year, it's 5. So you can't draft very many diamonds in the rough when you're not even getting many dips into the mine. So what they're able to come out of this class, I don't want to say anything would be gravy, but if they get one legit major leaguer out of their 2020 selections, they'll have done well. Now, it happens to dovetail with a time in Astros history where their farm system presently is mediocre to poor. Now, that's a byproduct of this era of Houston Astros Major League Baseball being tremendous, all the talent that they've promoted from within, other noted prospects, some of whom will never amount to anything, but were still good enough as prospects to be available to be used as capital, to trade for Verlander, to trade for Greinke. The Astros, in terms of so-called position players, non-pitchers, they're very thin in the minor leagues. They're also facing the possible losses of free agency after 2020, whether there's a season. George Springer, Michael Brantley, Yuli Gurriel. That would seem to point in the direction of maybe a college bat if they think there's someone of very high potential with a pure hit tool that they like that could play corner outfield or maybe first base, who they think could get to the major leagues sooner than later. Otherwise, I'm sure they'll revert to the number one cliche of drafting, best player available.
So you mentioned 2 big challenges for the organization. One is a lack of draft equity. 2 is a lot of contracts that are coming to a conclusion, especially over the next couple of years. Most notably are Verlander and Greinke. I'm going to put you on the spot here. In 2 years, is that championship window still open for the Astros, or are they starting to transition into sellers with the purpose of rebuilding back up that draft equity?
Well, if Verlander and Greinke are ex-Astros post-2021 because they're free agents still able to command notable money, or they've had Father Time finally gain ground on them, the Astros window of this nucleus will be closed. Their pitching rotation will be very weak. For 2020, if they resume, it's nothing but question marks after Verlander and Greinke. McCullers has yet to have a season in which he combined both good health and good pitching. Jose Urquidy had a handful of decent starts, but not much there to build on. Josh James is a question mark. Maybe this reinflates the significance of Forrest Whitley, the supposed chosen one among their pitching prospects, paying some dividends on that potential at some point. The Astros have a volume of arms, but basically none of them after Whitley. Maybe Brian Abreu, who are thought of as real upper tier, say top 50 minor league baseball prospects at this point. Altuve is 30 years old now. Springer, even if he resigns, is 31. Gurriel, if he resigns, will be 36 next season. So the clock, it is ticking. But post-2021, the Astros at least will be moving into a hybrid next phase. The core of a pretty darn stout lineup could be there. But their starting rotation, if Verlander and Greinke are no longer Astros in 2022, they're the 5 question marks. Sounds like a doo-wop group from the 60s.
What's interesting, I think, is that the history of Lunau's drafting has never been pitching has never really been their strength, right? And that's kind of seen, and they've had all of these great draft picks.
They have not developed quality, homegrown major league starting pitching.
Right. And so I guess, the real question now is, James Click, can he correct that? Or are we concerned that the foundations of the previous draft team are still there, What do we think that that's still going to be a challenge for them, or can we trust that they will start to draft some quality talent and develop within the minor league system?
Of course, you hope to find the sweet spot. Click comes from the background with the Rays, where they have always operated on the shoestring budget, yet have generally put forth representative teams over the last decade or so, including developing some more homegrown pitching of quality than at the Astros, but developing some cheap labor streams when you get those young players and control them through their arbitration years before they get to free agency. If you're going to pay top dollar to keep the Altuves and the Bregmans, Wither Correa, right? Yordan Alvarez is dirt cheap for another 3 seasons, or this season plus 2. But pitching is a massive question mark going forward because they're paying for grade A quality, but they are paying Verlander $33 million per year. They get a discount from what Arizona was paying Greinke, but in terms of calculating the Astros' luxury tax payroll, competitive balance tax payroll, Greinke counts over $34.5 million. That's not sustainable over the long term unless you're the Yankees, the Red Sox, maybe the Cubs. You're not thinking over an 8-10 year period. We're good with paying almost $70 million for 2 of our starting pitchers. So the Astros are going to want to develop talent that's cheaper and more efficiency than that because they don't now have the resources to make the best offer in the trade market for the Verlander or Greinke available in a given year, much less do it in consecutive years, as Luno was able to pull off in 17 and 18.